Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Dragon Link in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution. Here is the deck profile and the cards that we have. We're playing one copy of Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, one Omni Dragon Brotar, one Dragunity Phalanx, one Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, one Crusadia Draco, double Rocket Recharger, 3 Rocket Tracer, 3 Starly Safer, 1 White Dragon Wyver Buster, 1 Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm, 1 Absa Router Dragon, 3 Destrudo, 1 Supreme King Gate Zero, 1 Chaos Dragon Legionnaire, and 1 Galactic Spiral Dragon. For spells, we have 1 Boot Set to Launch, double Dragon Ravine, 3 Dragon Shrine, 1 Dragunity Divine Lance, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn, 3 Quick Launch, 1 Terraforming, 1 Upstart Goblin, 3 World Legacy Guard Dragon, and 1 World Legacy Succession. In your extra deck, you have 3 Synchros, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Dawn Dragstar, 1 Borreload Savage. Then you have 1 Dingirsu as your only XEs, and then for your links, we have LP, Pisty, Striker, Delingirus, Romulus, Erratic Seal, Phoenix, Union Carrier, Appaloosa, Borrel Sword, Sayuja. As you can see in the title of this deck here, or the name of this deck, I'm calling this a beginner version of Dragon Link. I'm playing a lot more extenders than I normally would and that I actually have in my own personal build of Dragon Link. But I feel like this, when you're trying to learn a combo deck, you kind of also will want to have too many extenders, because if you make a mistake in the middle of your combo, you might get a little bit disheartened and feel like, oh, I messed up my combo, I have to start all over again from the beginning. And you're going to need to practice a lot with this deck to get your head around all the different interactions. So I'm playing more extenders in this build to make it a little bit easier on beginners. So if you do make a mistake, you can make a note of it and then keep on going to try to get to your end board. It's a little bit more user friendly in that sense. In this video, we're going to do things a little bit different. I've broken the deck down into the following cores: Chaos Dragon Core, Graveyard Core, Striker Romulus Core, Romulus Guard Dragon Core, and Endgame Core. In between some of these cores, I'm also going to cut to gameplay footage so you can see what I am talking about verbally in action. And I think that's probably going to be the best way I can demonstrate how this deck works for a beginner point of view. In a future video, I will upload other content where I'll show you what this is like when you're playing in a match online, and also more better builds than the beginner version build. Or better, quote unquote. This build is still really good. I think this is a solid build, personally myself. I will play this. There's just a couple of things I will tweak here and there. So the first core you have to understand about is the Chaos Dragon core. The Chaos Dragons are Black Dragon Collapse Serpent and White Dragon Wyver Buster. They are really good extenders, but the only way to search them out is through Starly's Safest effect. Starly's Safest effect most of the time is used by sending itself to the graveyard, and then by doing so, you can add Black Dragon Collapse Serpent from your deck to your hand, and then summon it, and then when you use it as part of a material for a link summon, you will then be able to search out White Dragon Wyver Buster. It really helps from going from your Link 1 Striker Dragon to getting 2 monsters on the field, so you can go into Romulus. Starly Safer isn't searchable, but it is a really good card because it actually forms as an extender in the graveyard, and so there are many ways to get it out of your deck, namely through your graveyard base spell cards: Foolish Burial, Dragon Shrine, and Dragon Ravine. You don't have to go through the effort of sending it to the graveyard, but I think getting to Starly Safer really helps your plays quite a lot. And if you do send it to the graveyard, you can then revive it through any of your Reborn effects: World Legacy Guard Dragon or Monster Reborn. The next core is your Graveyard core, or your Graveyard Dragons. If you don't send Starly Safer to the graveyard, there are other targets for these, and why we're playing so many of them. And your first option is to go for Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm. If you have no monsters on your field, and this is in your graveyard, you can summon it to the graveyard for free. A free level 4 dragon monster for you to use for your link summons. Also, when you summon it, it adds Supreme King Gate Zero from your deck to your hand, which is really good because there's a lot of discarding in this deck, and so having some discard folder can make it a little bit more manageable and a little bit easier to do. Your next option, best options, are either Destrudo or Galactic Spiral Dragon. It's up to you really what you want to go for. I recommend, if you're going second, get Destrudo, and early in the game try and make Black Rose Dragon, because if you threaten your opponent to blow up their board, they have to negate it or respond to it somehow, and that means that that's one less thing for them to use when you actually go into the rest of your combo. But if you're going first, FA Dawn Drags is a little bit better because during your opponent's turn you can negate a spell or trap card effect. Or if you're going for Galactic Spiral Dragon, you can summon it to the field to make all your monsters level 8 and easily make Dingirsu, who 1, when it's on the field, protects your monsters from destruction by battle or card effects, which is really good for your whole board. Or when you're going second, you can summon it to send any card on your opponent's field to the graveyard. It doesn't target, it doesn't destroy, it's a really good option for removal. So I'm now going to go to some gameplay. Let me show you a couple of opening turns and how this looks with these two cores. So here's our test hand. Here we have Foolish Burial, Dragon Ravine, Double Destrudo and Starliege Safer, and we're going to play against the computer to demonstrate how this deck works. First I'm going to use the effect of Dragon Ravine. We're going to discard Destrudo because Destrudo can work from the graveyard and your hand. And then we're going to send Darkworm to the graveyard. We're going to use Supreme King Dragon Darkworm's effect to summon itself from the graveyard to the field, and that gives us 1 level 4 dragon for our link summons. Darkworm's effect will trigger, giving us Supreme King Gate 0 from our deck, which is nice discard fodder. And then we're going to play Foolish Burial to load up our graveyard even more. We have Destrudo in grave, so we're going to send Galactic Spiral Dragon to the graveyard. And now we're going to normal summon Starliege Safer. We're going to use Starliege Safer's effect to access our Chaos Dragon engine, and because it's a light monster, we're going to go for the Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. And so now we are ready to access our Striker Romulus core, so in a second we're going to cut and go back to the deck profile and talk about that. The next core for this deck is the Striker Romulus core, where we've now set up our board. We've got a couple of dragons to our board and we can use to start going into link summons. The first monster you're always going to summon is really Striker Dragon, and you're going to summon that and then add Boot Scepter Launch from your deck to your hand. Once you are doing so, you have to ask yourself, to use Boot Scepter Launch, you need to have some rocket monsters in your hand. If you don't have any rocket monsters in your hand, then you have to hold it in your hand and use it later on, but that's not too bad because the next thing will help us do. You then want to use one other dragon monster plus Striker Dragon to go into Dragoon Knight Romulus, who when it is activated and is summoned to the field, you will be able to search out Dragon Ravine or Dragoon Divine Lance. Now, it is up to you what you want to do. But like I said earlier, if you don't have any rockets in your hand, I recommend going for Dragon Ravine, where you can use its effect to send Absol Router Dragon to the graveyard, which will then allow you to add Rocket Tracer or Rocket Recharger from your deck to your hand. If that isn't something you want to go for, well then your options are either to go for Dragon Ravine and go for one of your graveyard dragon effects and send them to the graveyard for later on, or you could go to Dragoon Divine Lance. A Dragoon Divine Lance is an equip spell which will equip to Romulus, and then you use its effect to put Dragoon Phalanx into your spell and trap zone, which can then summon itself to the field. The idea behind this is for you to go from this core into the Guard Dragon core, you at least need to have Romulus on the field with either 2 monsters or Romulus on the field with 1 monster and 1 copy of World-Legacy Guard Dragon. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so here's our board again. We're back to the game and we're going to now make our Striker Dragon. We're going to use our Collapse Serpent because it will go to the graveyard and summon Striker Dragon to the field. Be aware of that with a Darkworm, that even though it's a good free summon, it is a pendulum monster and will not go to your graveyard, and you do want your graveyard to have some monsters for later on. With Black Dragon Collapse Serpent sent to the graveyard, we will be able to add White Dragon Wyver Buster, and Striker Dragon will get us Boot Scepter Launch. Now this could be a good point to use Boot Scepter Launch, but we have no rocket monsters, so we're going to hold on to it and save it for later on. And now we're going to go into Dragoon Knight Romulus, being a wind-based Dragon Link 2 monster, with 2 arrows deliberately pointing to the bottom left and bottom right. When Romulus is summoned, we get to add either Ravine or Lance from our deck to our hand. As you can see, I've added Ravine, and Ravine is not a hard once per turn, so you can use multiple copies of it in the same turns. Kind of insane that this card can be used as a field spell card and it's searchable. But then, that's dragons for you. Now I sent Gate 0 to the graveyard to send Absol Router, and Absol Router is going to allow us to add Rocket Tracer from our deck to our hand, so Boot Scepter Launch is now live. We are now basically ready to do our Guard Dragon plays, and so in a minute we're going to cut again and go back to our core. Just going to summon Wyver Buster, but we are ready. Okay, so we've now set up our Romulus play, we're ready to go into our Guard Dragon board, so let's start making some Link monsters. So how the Guard Dragon combo works is in order to somehow use these cards' effect, you have to set up your board in a way where 2 link monsters are pointing to the same empty main monster zone. And so in order to do that, what you're going to see in the clip in a second is I'm going to summon Pisty and LP into the zones that Romulus is pointing to, and they will both point to one square in the middle, which will allow us to summon their monsters, which is the way we're going to extend. There is another way of doing this, and that is by using World Legacy Guard Dragon, which can allow you to move your monsters around on the board so you can set this play up a little bit easier. Now once you have LP on the board, your best it's going to allow you to summon a dragon from your deck to the field or your hand to the field, and your most common target is going to be Omni Dragon Brotor. But when this card is special summoned, you discard one monster to search out another Dark Dragon from your deck, and your ideal target is Chaos Dragon Legionnaire. You don't have to do that, but it's the most common play. Then later on, you're going to use your cards to extend a little bit further, and later on you will then use Pisty to summon a dragon from either your banished pile or your graveyard. Again, there's no real must summon, there's no real card that you have to summon in this position, but what I do recommend is that if you don't have a Starlight Safer in your graveyard, you've already banished it, say through your Chaos Dragons, put it back in your graveyard. It's going to help you out a little bit later on. Before we end this core part, what you need to know is that when we get to the endgame core, if you want to summon cards like Dingirsu, FA Dawn Dragster, Union Carrier or Appaloosa, you can't have LP or Pisty on the board because they will stop you from summoning anything other than dragons while they're on the board. So you have to get rid of them. You can either get rid of them with the Lingirus Dragon, which takes 2 Dark Dragon monsters, or you can, if you've got extra monsters to use, you can make Saryuja Skull Dread. So let's go into the gameplay and I'll show you what this looks like. Here we are in the game again. We're now going to activate Boot Set to launch, and this is going to allow us to summon another level 4 monster on the field. As I said in the tutorial and breakdown, you either need to have Romulus and 2 dragon monsters on the board, or you need to have Romulus and World Legacy Guard Dragon. And we don't have the spell, so we're going to have to do this the normal way. We're going to send Wyver Buster to the graveyard to make LP, and that has to go on the right hand side. So that its arrow points to the left underneath Romulus. And do not use Romulus's effect. That Romulus second effect is such a bait. You'll be able to summon a dragon from your hand, but it will not be able to be used for link summoning. It's very, very annoying. Don't do that. I've made that mistake before. Then we used, I forgot what we used. We used the monster Rocket Tracer to summon out Pisty, and Pisty has now come to the field, and we now have 2 zones pointing to the same monster zone. We're going to now use our LP effect to summon out Brotor. And Brotor's effect is that when it is summoned to the field, special summoned to the field, you choose 1 dragon monster on your field, and you get to add to your hand 1 monster that is the same attribute and type. You could do any of the Dark Dragon monsters, it doesn't matter, because you'll be able to discard a card and get Legionnaire. And now we're going to summon Legionnaire by banishing 3 Darks that we don't care about from our graveyard. And at this point, we're now going to use his effect to be able to take 1 card out of our opponent's hand and shuffle it back into the deck. Meaning that when they start their turn, they're only going to have 5 cards, and we have a board that's going to be very hard for them to break. Now, we're talking about extending our plays further here. I'm now going to summon out Saryuja, but I haven't used Pisty's effect yet, so I'm keeping it on the field deliberately. Now, Saryuja is pretty nice to go in at this point because it has an arrow that points down. So now Pisty and Saryuja are pointing to the same square that LP and Pisty was pointing to before, and we're going to be able to draw 4 cards and shuffle 3 back in. So I'm going to keep Quick Launch, and we're going to have these 2 cards on the board. Now we're going to use Pisty's effect to summon a card from our banished power, and I'm just checking what I have. The best target to kind of revive is Starlight Safer, which I do have in the banished pile, so I'm going to get that back from my banished pile because I want it to be in my graveyard for later on. Starlight Safer is going to hit the field, and now we are ready to go for our endgame board and finish this. Okay, you've now just done your Guard Dragon play, you're now ready to set up your endgame board, and so this is where your options kind of open up, and it's really up to you what you want to choose to summon to break your board or to attack your opponent with. But here are some options, and here's generically how you get to them. We talked about these synchros already. You use either, in order to summon these out, you use the Strudo. So let's get them out. We've already talked about how to do that. Now, if you want to go to Dingirsu, we've also said that you need Galactic Spiral Dragon. That's what you do if you want to summon out Dingirsu. Now, Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, and Borosaur Dragon are also very generic. All you got to do is have multiple monsters on the board to summon them out. So it's kind of self-explanatory. Just use your monsters, summon them out, and then you either have multiple negates or a monster that can pretty much OTK your opponent. Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spears is also quite easy to make. It just takes any 2 dragon. It's really good for bouncing your opponent's card on the field. It doesn't target, but also it summons a dragon from your deck, which then sets up your future plays. Now, let's say you want to go for the Union Carrier combo, and I noticed that we don't have the little dragon here, so 1 second. Let me search out Dragon Buster. Now, Dragon Buster is in this deck because it sets up what is called the Buster Dragon Lock, or the Dragon Buster Lock. In that, when this card is equipped to another monster, it can stop your opponent from being able to access their extra deck. This is really, really good as a floodgate type card, because a lot of decks nowadays have to use their extra deck to even get their deck going or started. Now, the only way you're going to be able to get this effect to equip it to a monster is by using Union Carrier. So you summon Union Carrier, leave it on the field, wait until you have either a dark monster or a dragon monster on your board, and then you will activate the effect to equip Buster to it. Best targets are Borodon Savage Dragon or Dingirsu, because they can protect the card from being destroyed and protect themselves because they're quite strong and have high attack values. Then last of all, MVP. If you want to go to Borodon Savage Dragon, you often do this at the end of your turn, because you're going to use Rocket Tracer's effect to destroy 1 card on your field, and then you'll be able to summon a rocket monster from your deck, being the best target being Rocket Charger. So you'll destroy your field spell, summon Rocket Charger, go to Borodon Savage. And just be aware that once you use Rocket Tracer, you are locked into dark monsters for the rest of the turn. And something I also didn't mention, I just realized, if you put Levianeer in your graveyard, you can get it back by just banishing Starly Safer. And normally what I would do is I'll keep this in my hand and save it for the next turn, because then you can summon it again to blow up your opponent's board. So that is the end game build, that is the cause. We're now going to go back to the video, watch the rest of the turn, and then we'll wrap it up there. So here's where we left off. We have Saryuja, Pisty, Starly Safer, Quick Launch, and Boot Set to launch on the field. We're going to get rid of Saryuja and Pisty and make Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spears, because with a Pisty still on the field, we won't be able to go into our non-dragon endgame monsters. And now we have our graveyard full of resources. We're going to use the Strudos effect to go into one of our synchro plays. Really, to be honest with you, it's up to you what you want to do at this point and what board you want to make. I could have made Dingirsu. I'm going to go into FA Dawn Dragster, because I think negating spell and trap cards would be the most relevant thing when playing against the AI. But honestly, there's so many options at this point you can go for, and I'm just having a look here. I could go for the Union Carrier play to beat the Dragon Buster lock, although we've only 6 Guardians in extra deck. Why would I do that against the AI here? It's a bit pointless. So yeah, it's up to you. It depends on the situation. You're going to have to be able to read your opponent and try and work it out what it is they're trying to do here. But I'm going to go for FA Dawn Dragster. So we'll get rid of the level 4 and the level 3. Summon it to the board. Always summon it in defense. It will come out with 28/100 attack, because it gets attack equal to its level plus times 300. But every time you negate, its attack will go down. So put it in defense, it's a bit safer. Speaking of safer, I banished Safer from the graveyard to add Chaos Dragon Levianeer from our graveyard to our hand. Now, I don't think this is the best play, but I was trying to do this as a demonstration of how far I can extend the board. I'm going to summon Levianeer again this turn, because you can, but I won't get the effect again this turn. Normally I would save Levianeer, but I'm not going to show any footage of this really past this turn, because really I'm playing against the computer. It's not going to be hard to beat it with Dragon Link. But what I'm doing here with Levianeer is, by putting it on the board, I'm now going to be able to summon Galactic Spiral Dragon, and I'm now going to use Galactic Spiral Dragon and Levianeer to make our Dingirsu. Really, really great card to have. You didn't have to make Dingirsu again. I could have made any other monster. I chose Dingirsu because it's very likely that the AI will be using some kind of destruction card like a Raigeki, and so Dingirsu will stop our board from being destroyed. Well, we have the FA Dawn Dragster that can do the same thing too. To end our endgame board here, and to wrap up almost this video, we're now going to finish off by playing Quick Launch to get out Rocket Tracer. Rocket Tracer is going to be able to use its quick effect to destroy 1 card on the board. Boot Set to launch is a perfect target because we don't need any more. Do not protect it with Dingirsu, it has to destroy in order to get the summon. And so we'll summon that Rocket Recharge from our deck. And now we have a level 4 tuner and a level 4 non-tuner. And we can go into the MVP, the bad boy, Borreload Savage Dragon. And guys, this is the board. This is kind of what Dragon Link aims to do when you're going first. Going second, it's very similar. You just use cards like Borreload Savage because you can attack, or things like Appaloosa or Black Rose Dragon instead. But really, it's the same kind of process and same kind of style of combos. But have a look at this board here. We've ripped one card out of our opponent's hand, so they only have 4 cards and they're going to have 5 when they start their turn. I have 1 negate through Borreload Savage, 1 negate through FA Dawn Dragster. I have protection from destruction from battle or card effects via Dingirsu. Haraxia of the Heavenly Spears can bounce a card from the field back into my opponent's hand and then can summon out another card from my deck, and then I can carry on and extend my plays further. It's really crazy how strong this deck is, and in my next video that I upload about this deck, you'll see this gameplay, see this in some gameplay against someone online in online ranked mode. Guys, thank you for tuning into this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful for you. Thank you for all the comments and support I've had this past week. It really has lifted my mood. I greatly appreciate it. Take care.